Hey Chris,
Hi,
how's it going?
good. How are you?
I'm doing all right.
Thanks for willing to do this.
Yeah, no problem.
I could just jump around a little bit before getting to metaphor.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
So, is it accurate that you started for voice work that you started doing things like online, like in 2005 or so?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I got into voice acting yeah, probably was around then. Early 2000s. I was spending a lot of time watching Flash animations and playing Flash games, particularly because I didn't have a good computer. So I I was spending a lot of time on Newgrounds and like Armor Games and places like that. And I got into making some of those things as well for a little while with my friend Will, and we had this little team that we called Edible Castle, um, and that was sort of really how I cut my teeth in terms of like just learning how um, to make voiceover for digital stuff, online stuff, recording things myself and editing and kind of writing and just doing lots of silly stuff. Um, yeah, yeah. And then I was studying at the time. I was doing performing arts. I was doing a degree, um, and I kind of initially I got into it because I wanted some way of practicing acting, but I was kind of a little bit tired of the sort of amdram, amateur dramatics um, that were sort of available to me where I was living at the time. So yeah, I just thought it would be a good way to practice acting and have fun.
Is there a special story of the job that got you into equity?
I suppose, yeah, there's not really a special story. I wouldn't say. At some point, I was doing lots of stuff for free, um, and I wasn't. I guess like my mind wasn't really focused on voiceover for a long time. I was doing it, and I found it really fun, and I really loved it, but I was kind of just trying to be an actor in general, and my degree was very physical theater and experimental theater and that sort of thing. So I was doing lots of other stuff aside from voice acting. And at some point the free stuff like went from, free to like somebody offering to pay me a couple of $100 for something. And I used that to buy a microphone. And then I started taking it a bit more seriously after that. But I suppose um my first, I guess like my first uh, the first video game that I did that felt like I was I was like I guess I could call myself a video game voice actor or a voice actor was way back on this little indie game called Dust: An Elysian Tale,
Oh yeah.
um, and that was really great. That was just a small little paid indie job, and I got directed by a good friend of mine, Devin Christian Mack, who also sort of came up through those circles as well. And yeah, I would say that was kind of the first time I thought like, oh, cool, like I'm doing video games as a job. That's neat.
Was there ever any aspiration for you to try to move to the States?
Um, Sort of. Well, so I actually grew up in America. I'm half Puerto Rican.
Hmm.
I grew up. I was born in England, but then I grew up in Puerto Rico for 10 years, and then I spent another 7-ish years in Texas. I went to high school there and stuff. Um, so I already had history there. So by the time I moved back here, and then I got back, and then I got into acting and that sort of thing. I mean, sure, there's like part of you kind of is tempted by the glam of like maybe going out to LA or something. Um, but at the moment, I think my career is kind of here, and I have family here and that sort of thing.
Hmm. Were you also like prior to Metaphor, were you like a fan of anime or anime video games?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, definitely anime. I wouldn't say I know like tons of anime video games, but or even tons of anime, but I do like anime. I know what I like, and those are the ones I like. Um, I was aware of Persona and that sort of thing, but I hadn't played them. Um, yeah, but anime wise, like yeah, I really like. I'm a big fan of Cowboy Bebop and like Attack on Titan. That's fun. Um, and I mean, I suppose I just have a like a love and interest in animation, sort of more broadly though than just on anime.
Was was Metaphor like a pretty general audition when it came up for you?
I would say so. Yeah. I mean, I remember it. It does. It did stick out at the time. I thought it sounded really cool. I knew it was going to be an RPG. I could tell that it was going to be an RPG anyway. Um, Typically, when we get auditions for video games, they're quite cryptic. They try not to reveal a lot of information because everything's shrouded in NDAs. Um, so you never really know. But I definitely could tell that this was an interesting game. That it was probably um, that it was probably going to be a really fun story. Um, I think I had, was given very broad strokes of like what the world was like and that sort of thing. Um, yeah, and I mean, there were actually the other thing I remember was there were loads of characters to audition for, um, and that's always really fun. Um, I like I like trying to kind of do as many as I can and just to sort of cast my net out wide and see what sticks. Um, and I think I remember when I did the Alonzo audition, coming up with I did something kind of by mistake. I was trying to do something else, and this other result sort of came out of it um, in the line read. I can't remember specifically what it was. Something to do with like a laugh, and and then ended up being a lot better than what I was trying to do. I really liked it, so I kept that in. And I remember when I then went to do the when I went to do the job, they they mentioned that particular bit being kind of a little quality that they really liked and that they heard the character in. Yeah, I think it was he's got a line that's like, oh man, I had it for a second then, but no, I don't think I've got it. Where he says something like, I could try to do something for you. And I kind of stretched it out with I could and gave it like a little kind of laugh in the middle. And yeah, I think that kind of encapsulated the sort of like cheekiness of the character, um, I guess, and kind of helped me.
What did you think of when you saw his design for the first time?
Um, you know what? I don't recall if I ever saw what he looks like until it finally came out. I don't actually remember. Um, but certainly my reaction when the game came out and I looked it up was like, oh, he's so cool. He's really, yeah, he's just really like, I guess he looked a lot like kind of what I imagined. I must have seen it. I must have seen a picture, but I honestly can't remember.
Mm.
Um, Yeah, I mean the whole game is just beautiful. It's really really gorgeous. I haven't had a chance to play it yet, but I've just been sort of watching a few clips and yeah, looks lovely.
Remember which aspects of him you could relate to at all?
Which aspects? I mean, I liked it. I liked the character a lot right from the beginning. I quite like these kind of cheeky, roguish types. And then as it developed and it became this whole kind of web of lies or this little like kind of um, little run of deception. It was just yeah, it was really interesting to me. Relate. I mean, I don't know about relate. I suppose like wanting to like retell your narrative, that sort of thing. Like we've all kind of wanted to do something like that. Um, so I guess I could relate to that. And Um, yeah, but more than anything, I think it's that the archetype of the roguish faker, the trickster. I'm always really into that archetype.
What do you think about the twist in his story arc?
I thought it was really cool. Yeah, I remember being like, oh, okay, because I think they sort of I don't think they told me in advance, like in in sort of concise bullet points, like this is the what's going to happen to Alonzo. I think we kind of went at it, chronologically. So then when he apparently, died, or or so we think. I At first I was like, oh, okay, so he's done now. Okay, fine, you know. Um, so yeah, it was definitely a surprise for me. Um, and I thought it was very clever. I liked the way that it was kind of done through partly through these letters as well. And it was yeah, it was all there's sort of romance to it all that I kind of liked. It felt all a bit sort of um, yeah, classical story, um, that sort of thing.
I don't know if you've even seen any of this too, but there's a lot of people in the fandom that think that his support link is the best in the game because of how well the writing is.
Oh, that's so nice. That's nice to know. Yeah, I remember the writing being very lovely. Yeah, it's very prosy, um, and has this lovely eloquence to it. Um, yeah, that's nice. So there's like about like kind of eight different they're called archetypes in the game. Is that right?
Yeah,
Yeah. Um, that's kind of like as much as I know in terms of how many of these types of characters there are. But this like it's kind of like classes, like the things that you can use in the game.
yep.
Okay.
Was there any inspiration from like other characters or people in terms of developing his voice for you?
Any inspirations? Hmm. It's hard to say, you know. Um, I can't. I don't think there was anything specifically, um, but I do think that in general, I kind of tap into lots of things. I just remember I want maybe not. I'm maybe not thinking specifically about any particular person, um, but like I might just be remembering the way someone did something, or the way I perceived um, something that happens in another character's story, that I kind of use to influence my character work sometimes. But I would say that's probably a lot that's just happening under the scenes, under the hood. I don't really, I'm not kind of like actively thinking about it too much. Every now and
Well,
again, um, someone will say in a session like, "Oh, this is really channeling, I don't know, this character or this actor or something like that." And yeah, and then you might kind of lean into that a little bit more if appropriate. But yeah, otherwise, not really.
well, it does sound like it's like Alonzo is pretty much your natural voice too.
Yeah, more or less. More or less. I think I pitched him up slightly. I've got a little bit of a hoarse throat today because I was doing a very shouty session a few hours ago. Um, so yeah, he probably is kind of sounding a bit naturally like me right now.
There were some people that were wondering if you had any thoughts about his race, like the kind of character that he is in the game, and like actually being really small in reality.
Right. Honestly, that those details had not really been described to me when when we were recording, or at least if they had, I don't recall now. Um, I don't think I would have. Again, I'm not sure how much I would have let that influence um, what I was doing at the time because I, sort of I didn't have enough of a broader understanding of the law and the world that they're trying to inhabit, and and the differences between any races and that sort of thing. Um, so I couldn't, I didn't feel like comfortable enough to make any probably big decisions there. Um, but it's interesting to find out about that sort of after the fact. And I'd be interested to see if any kind of like accidental things come through as a result.
Well, towards the end of his arc, it's not shown on screen, but there is a moment where you are talking to him when he's actually in his true form, and
Okay.
yeah, that's one thing that
Right,
everybody
right.
was hoping to see.
Okay. And so, so they don't actually show you, but you just hear him.
Yeah.
Okay. Uh, yeah, maybe a DLC.
Do you remember if there was any like default line that you had to get into his headspace?
There probably was, but unfortunately, I don't remember now. We recorded this at least last year. Um, but yeah, could have been long, uh, further than that.
Mhm. Is there something that you think you'd like to see for his character?
Again, it's hard to say because I don't know it well enough yet. Um, I mean, so as I understand it, he's not in the. I'm going to sound like such a like an old man or something. Like I don't know anything about this game or video games. Um, he's not a member of your party, right? You don't take him around and fight with him, but
No.
his existence, the bond that you can create with him, sort of influences like some part of the game system.
Yep.
Um, I mean, like, yeah, I don't know enough about what happens overall in the story to say like, oh, I would have loved to see this happen with him. Um, but I mean, personally, I always love to see my characters being used in fights or something like that. So I'd have loved to have him as a member of the party somehow, even though I don't know anything about the game, whether that's that would be in any way good or bad.
Mm. Do you remember specifically because the one of the last scenes with him, the monologue that happens is really beautifully well done, and where he has all these lines about how he'd rather continue tricking people instead of being honest, and if his like being deceptive can help the protagonist, then he's happy to do that.
It's like it's this question of it, what what forms of like deception are for some kind of greater good. What's acceptable for some kind of greater good. Um, and I mean, I guess it's kind of interesting as well to like um, to consider who who it's hurting. I don't know again because I don't remember now, and I haven't played the game yet. I don't know the extent of like what the effects of Alonzo's deception are, if there are any sort of innocent bystanders who sort of get caught up in that, because obviously then it becomes a gray area. But I think for the most part, um, if you're not hurting innocent people with the deception, if it's actually making um, a positive change in the world, then you can make a pretty good argument that uh, that it's that it's okay, I guess.
But yeah, how do you think he would respond to finding out that there's a fan base for him?
There's a fan base for him.
Yeah.
Oh wow. That's I mean that's cool. I can't. Yeah, I imagine there would be. He's a very cool looking dude. Yeah, with the long coat and the lovely hat.
There's
Yeah,
something that
that
you
looks he looks like a good one for cosplay.
for
Actually,
right.
I reckon there's gonna be some good cosplays of him.
there something that you want to say to the fandom for the game?
Oh, well, thank you so much for being interested to know a bit about me and what I did. I wish I knew the game better so that I could join you more like positively on things that happened to Alonzo and and what I think about those things. I'm definitely going to play the game. So come back to me another time when I've played it and then I can join you guys with that a bit more. Um, and yeah, glad you like it and enjoy.
My final question is always asking, what do you want your legacy to be?
Wow, man, that's that's a good question. That's a It's a big question, huh? What do I want my legacy to be? I don't know. Well, I've got two young kids, and they're so young at the moment that they kind of don't really care about what I do. Um, and I'm hoping at some point to do enough work that they really like, that they're really into, so that I can win some serious dad points with them. Um, and legacy wise, I just I see myself as a storyteller, and I just want to keep being able to facilitate like the power of storytelling in different mediums. I think games are amazing, and interactivity is amazing, and the future and all the rest of that. So I just hope my legacy is in um, sort of like the frontier of storytelling. Like new ways of telling stuff and being able to become this like reliable voice in um, that people like to use and work with.
Thank you, brother. We got to do this.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for asking me.
Yeah. Hope you have a good rest of your day then.
Yeah, nice one, Chris. All right, good to meet you.
Bye.
Have a nice night.